be here at Guardian again and to be with you all. And many of you, we've met before, you know us or we know you or something along those lines. But some of us, for some people, it's kind of the first time we've gotten together. The presentation that we're going to share, really it's the second half of it that's kind of new and different. And so the first half may be a repeat for some of you, or maybe not. But we did want to share a little bit about us. So for those of you who are getting to know us for the first time, yes, that's really Lisa and I. We were called I was called out of seminary as an evangelistic missionary to Venezuela. That was in 1988. And we served there for 13 years. And so that's when we first arrived in country. And our work was the mix between urban and rural. And in Venezuela, we raised our 4 kids. 3 of them were born in Venezuela. And we started in the rural areas, which was actually really cool because we got to see kind of the Venezuela that all Venezuelans have in their mind. Like America is shaped by rural America, even though most people don't live in rural America anymore. But I think all countries are like that. Those that you can see, can you pick out our kids there, the 2 little blondies in the stroller? Good to see them. And then we also did urban church planning in Barquisimeto, and Guardian sent 3 teams. We dedicated that church that Guardian helped us to build in 1999. Then we were in the Miami area for 13 years, from 2001 to 2014. And I was a pastor church planter at New Life Lutheran Church. And Liisa, who is Lutheran school teacher, music director, choir director, bell choir director, Spanish teacher, classroom teacher, right? He did all of those things. Yeah, and wife, part-time wife. And so, you know, when you got the microphone, you just kind of say what you want. So then in 2014, we got the invitation to go and serve in Chile. And so, talk a little bit about that. Did you want to?
All right. So, if you didn't get a chance to see our table up in the narthex, you're welcome to look at it. There's some more. Oh, here. There we go. There's some more close-up shots of what it looks like in Chile. Long, narrow country. It's like 7 times California in its length. Andes Mountains to your left, so you're on the, to the right. Sorry, here we go. Yeah, Andes Mountains to your right, so to the east, and the Pacific to the west. The widest section is 200 miles wide, so it's not very wide. Has the Atacama Desert in the north, which is one of the most driest, if not the driest place on earth. And on the south, we have the Patagonia and a lot of little islands and icebergs and penguins and things like that. We have not had the opportunity to go to the very south or the very north, but it's a very beautiful country. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cities where we have the Lutheran Church, our brand of Lutheran Church, part of, okay, so that's coming up. And we were sent to the capital city of Santiago. I think there's 7.5 million people in Santiago. Huge, huge city. Great infrastructure of public transportation, subway system, the whole thing. You can see the Andes are always in the background. When you live in the middle of the city like we do, you see the foothills. And that's where I get to do all my hiking. Typical neighborhood street, you can see where it's residential. There's still trees. We have fall, but fall is in what month? April and May. April and May, this picture was taken. So Easter time looks like Thanksgiving. It's backwards, yeah. A lot of urban art, especially in the coastal town of Valparaiso, they're known for all their graffiti that was taken there. A lot of historic buildings, which I'll put a little note here. In 2018, we began a whole slew of social uprisings, and a lot of these historic buildings were just graffiti to death, and a lot of destruction. Even though it's a city, they have marketplaces that it's like rotating markets. There's different neighborhoods for each day. So where we live now, every Thursday, they open up shop. You can buy everything from, bananas and eggplant down to batteries and a hammer or a tire for your bike, clothing, everything. I enjoy that. And I also enjoy riding on the subway because there's always entertainers, free entertainment. They're not supposed to be there, but there's a huge homeless population, huge immigrant population, and just it's a very hippie culture too in Chile. So there's always good entertainers. You can see it's kind of crowded on the subways. That was a volunteer group visiting us from Arizona that I'm in the subway with.
So a little bit about, let me get through this and then we'll take questions. A little bit about the Lutheran Church of Chile. So the official name is the Confessional Lutheran Church of Chile. It started in 1954. It was started from Argentina, not from the United States. So the connection with Argentina and the Argentine Lutheran Church is still there. So they only had 2 congregations until 2007. So for the first 50 plus years, it was just 2 churches. And why was that? Because they, according to their model, they could only afford 2 pastors because they only had 2 schools. So the idea was you started school to pay for the pastor, and then you pay a pastor, and then you have a church. So it took a while to kind of break that mindset. So since 2010, there's been fairly rapid expansion. So we now have 7 congregations, 2 missions, 6 pastors, and 2 schools. We haven't lost the schools yet. There's a recent picture of the pastors of the Lutheran Church of Chile. None of them are Chilean. So starting from the left is a Venezuelan, and then Argentine, another Argentine, and American, and another Argentine, and another Venezuelan. Yeah. So kind of the church in a nutshell. Yeah. Where are the Chilean pastors? We have one Chilean pastor is doing his vicarage now back in Chile. So if he gets ordained, that'll be good. The first one that was ordained is now serving in Panama as a church planter. And Liisa and I met a few months ago at the LCMS Hispanic convention. We met a Chilean who's serving as a pastor in Texas. But he wasn't a Lutheran when he lived in Chile. So there are Chilean pastors, Lutherans, they do exist. Just not in our church in Chile. Okay, any questions or comments up to there? That's kind of where we came from. Then we're going to go into our ministry and then a few other things. Yes?
I was reading about Brazil having a tremendous growth in the evangelical community. And I don't know, I find that interesting when you've talked before and today about how you had growth among Venezuelan. Are Chileans mostly Catholic, or are they kind of seculars too? I mean, what's their population like?
Well, I mean, you could do a whole study about that. When we got there in 2014, 79% of the population identified as Roman Catholic for religious affiliation. 2 years later, in 2016, that was down to 27%.
Wow.
So what happened between 2014 and 2016? Roman Catholic pedophile scandal. And so the people who didn't actually go to church, they were just traditionally Catholic. They just took that off of their moniker. And you see kind of the true percentage of Catholics now, which is, I would say, below 20%. The large percentage is agnostic. Chileans self-identify religiously as agnostic. In other words, they know something's out there, they're just not sure what it is. And they're not that interested in finding out, quite frankly. Very difficult population, yeah. We may see more evangelistic fruit if the economy really goes south. And that seems to be the pattern. Brazil, really tough economic times, boom in evangelism. Venezuela, super tough economic times, and all of a sudden people are looking for God. So, yeah. Another question here.
Showing the modern architecture in Chile. Is this influenced from German heritage, or what nationalities make up the professionals that built the building?
Yeah, the historic architecture, I think, derives mostly from the Spaniards. It's very European style. The German architecture you do see, but it's way down south. The German immigrants ended up they looked for something that more similar to Germany. And they found that in southern Chile. So one of our favorite beers, by the way, is Kunstmann, which is a German, started by German Lutherans. They're no longer Lutherans, but at least it had that root, and they make good beer, and they're in the south. And we went and toured their brewery. So they had on the wall, where are we going to get to our thing? They had it was on the wall in there. They had a big poster. I think we're dying here. Let me try it again. Test. Okay. It was the proclamation of purity of beer. And you'll never guess the date on that. It was October 31st, 1517. And I said, well, there was another purity statement that was made on that exact same date, October 31st, 1517, but it wasn't over the purity of beer, it was over the purity of teaching the Bible, of God's truth. And that's especially, and the whole tour group, they had no idea that they had information. And it's bizarre because October 31st in Chile is a national holiday. Yeah, whenever it falls, during whatever day of the week it is, national holiday. And they call it the Day of the Protestants, Protestant Day. But we know it's really the Reformation. Okay, is this?
You just shut it off.
We'll keep using this one. All right, good. Any other questions real quick? Yes.
What is their main language?
Spanish, yep, 100% Spanish. There is, Brazil is Portuguese, but all the rest of South America is Spanish pretty much, yeah.
How about the government and the situation that they've gone through dictatorship?
They went through dictatorship, they came out of it with some kind of a democracy. They leaned left, pretty severely. They did have all these political protests and upheavals and manifestations, and I predicted it in my newsletter. You can go and look at it. In April 2019 or 2020, I said this is going to end with them writing a new constitution, because that's how Latin America solves their political conflicts. They always write a new constitution. And sure enough, they wrote a new constitution. And they did the Constituent Assembly, and then they had to vote. You either approve or reject it. Total left, socialist, woke agenda constitution was rejected by like 80% of the voters. So now we don't have a new constitution. We have the old one still. Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Larry.
Now it's working. Hey, there we go. Okay, so we can use this for questions. Yes, please.
You've noted several of the pastors in Chile are from Venezuela. Are any of them products of your previous missionary work?
Yes, actually. The one, Adrian Ventura, was a product of our mission work when we first got to Venezuela. And the other one, Obed Coronado, he was way too young. He's like our kid's age. Yeah. But Adrian he was a youth in our first church. No, wasn't too old. I remember he had recently graduated high school, and he decided to go into business. And I said, have you ever thought about studying theology? And he was like, no, he was all about the business. And so I kind of twisted his arm and got him into a theology class, and he ended up becoming a pastor. Yeah. So.
You'll hear more about him.
Yep. Okay. Good. Shall we move ahead? What do we have next? All right, so we've had two ministries in our 8 years in Chile, two ministries. Our first one is in a part of Santiago called La Florida. And in that place, we purchased some property. That was a mission plant in progress. So we joined a church plant that was in progress, worked with an Argentine pastor, and we bought some property. We used shipping containers to build a church. So we got 2 shipping containers, we put them side by side. Spacing, there you can see it there. Space in between. We built out the floor, and it looked like that when we're done. So it's pretty nice, yeah. So each congregation has a focus or a specialty ministry. The La Florida congregation, their specialty ministry is a rehab center for adults with severe handicaps. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Casa Bethesda. Okay, Lisa's so passionate about it, she's going to talk all day about it. But you can see her there teaching music. So she was the music therapist teacher there all the way up until just recently. She's been doing that. So our second ministry in Chile, now that one was partial, well, it coincided with the crisis in Venezuela, which continues to fuel a out-migration of Venezuelans to everywhere around the world. It's now, in the last few years, it has been the largest out-migration in the history of the world in the Western Hemisphere. There's never been more people who have left a single country in the Western Hemisphere ever. So how many is that? That's like 20% of the population has left. Yeah, so that's a thing. And you can find this online, Venezuelans in Chile. You find the maps. This is how you get there. You know, this is how you can cross the border and so on. So in July 2007, we rented a large house. The 2017, excuse me. We rented a large house. Lisa and I moved into it. And that was a place to start a ministry to provide housing and services to immigrants. So that's what we did. Venezuelan immigrants came and lived with us, and we got them situated. So by the end of 2019, we had outgrown our space, and we rented a new house a few blocks away. This is the actual place on a corner lot. And we moved right before the pandemic, February 2020. And when we were here last year, we kind of talked about how that had gone during the pandemic. So to bring you up to date, what are we doing here? People are joining God's family through the waters of baptism. We've done a few of those this year, and adult baptisms as well. Here we have some new believers learning about the Bible. And I think we've had 13 confirmations, adult confirmations so far this year. We have a ladies group, so that's a ladies meeting. And Liisa has successfully turned over the reins of the ladies group to...
The lady with the hat on.
Yeah, to the lady with the hat on, sitting next to Liisa there. Here's worship. This was in September. We don't often remember to take a picture of our worship service, but somebody did on that day. That was a Chilean man receiving his certificate of confirmation. Yeah.
One of the ways that God answered your prayers, probably, those of you who have been praying for God to put people in place in this mission so that we can move on to the next chapter, which is return to the States. Well, one of the people he sent was the blonde woman who's taking a picture. She showed up in church in March. I was leaving in April to come help another grandbaby be born. And I saw this woman in the congregation. She doesn't look very Chilean. She's got blonde, and it's kinky hair. And she's tall. Chileans are short and dark hair. And I went and found out that she was immigrant herself, but immigrating from Argentina. And she's the daughter of a pastor in Argentina who was retiring. And she had kind of gone down the other path. And she had made some life choices that she knew now were wrong. So I just kind of left Argentina, decided, I think she got a job offer in Santiago, she'd start over again. So her friends that knew her history said, you gotta go check out this. There's 2 Lutheran churches in Santiago, but you should check out Divina Providencia, that's ours, because we think you'll fit in. And the Sunday I left, she came up to Jim and said, I have a feeling Lisa's gonna leave a big hole here when she's in the States and you're here. What can I do? So she takes pictures, because that's what I always do. She has taken over the Sunday school. She's not like a really super experienced teacher, but she is a pastor's kid, you know. She's organizing, and her gifts are organization. And she comes and cooks whenever she can, and she's always at the ladies' meeting. And this is her boyfriend. She has a new boyfriend. He's Chilean, and she put down the groundwork. You got to get your heart straight here. Before we continue in this relationship, I want you to know who Jesus is. So he comes to church with her, and sometimes he doesn't come. Sometimes she shows up by herself, kind of. And she says, I can't make him go. But the Sunday that he got confirmed, you can see how happy he is. Yeah, he knows that he's doing the right thing. So thank you for praying. Her name is Patricia. She came at the right time.
Okay, and we also operate a thrift store. So a resale shop, we receive donations, and once a week we open that. It's on Fridays. And that generates some income for the mission, and that young lady there runs it. Her name is Elianet. And of course, immigrants move in and out of our house. So we still have the immigrant project. So with immigrants moving in and out, and some of them come to faith and join our church, and some of them don't. But all of them at least hear the gospel. So this is a picture, you know, during kind of fellowship time. Some of the members have gone home, some of them didn't come that Sunday, and somebody said, let's take a quick picture, and so we took a picture. So you heard it in the sermon, those of you who went to early church. Does that look like a young congregation or what?
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this is, you know, all millennials.
The older lady in the red television Spain.
Yeah, so she was our senior member, and her daughter is a doctor, and her daughter went to Spain then, pursued an opportunity, so she's going to Spain now too, so she's gone. So now we are definitely the oldest members.
Hey, it's at least one step at a time.
That's right, one step at a time, yeah. So, okay, so last year we shared this slide with you. We said if it's the Lord's will, we would like to wrap up our ministry in Chile in 2021 and return to the United States. And then we said for this to happen, we need a permanent location in Santiago, no longer rented, and the cost would be about $500,000. We need the Lord to provide a pastor, missionary to shepherd the flock. We need to have our musicians trained. We need strong lay leadership, and we needed more members. Okay, so let's update that. So, more members, check. We got that. We have strong lay leadership. We have trained musicians. Yeah, they're not committed, but they're trained. We have, the big news is the Lord did provide a pastor to shepherd our flock on our 5th call. Pastor Adrian Ventura, who was my youth guy from Venezuela, he said yes. Permanent location, no, we don't have that. Okay, so, but 4 out of 5 isn't bad, right? Yeah. So, B minus. So, sorry about the typo there, oops, that's Reverend Adrian Ventura. He's accepted the call to serve as our next pastor. And he was, as I said, a youth that, and his wife were both members of our youth group in Maturin, Venezuela. Then they immigrated to Chile 5 years ago as missionaries of Global Lutheran Outreach. So they are in our missionary family. And he raises some of his support. His challenge is to raise all of his support. The National Church has been helping to fill the gaps there, but he raises some of his support. And he has these 3 children, and this young man, Josue, is now at the seminary, studying in the Dominican Republic. Yep, and I think he has 2 more years to go. We called him first or second. He was our first or second call at the end of 2021 or maybe January of this year, and he declined it. And then we went through our list and we did call, and they're all declining it. And we got back around to this fall, and people said, well, you know, it's too bad Pastor Adrian declined. I said, you know, you can call again, the same guy. There's no rule against that. I know churches that call the same guy 3 times. And so, just, you know, if you think that he's the right man, call him, let's call him again. So we did, and he accepted. So, whatever happened during that year, you know, God worked in him and in us, or did what he needed to do. So as a result of that, we will be returning to the USA in mid-December 2022. Yeah. 2 months from now. Yeah. So that brings up the question of what's next, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's not retirement. It should be. Right. Yeah. Okay, so here's some things that at Global Lutheran Outreach, this is what we believe. We believe that God earnestly desires all people in all the world to be saved, right? I think we all know that. But what we don't often think about is that's God's passion. If somebody earnestly desires something, they're passionate about it. That's his passion. And we also believe that God has given each of his children a passion for something. So all of us, all of you have a passion for something. It might be music, or it might be helping, it might be teaching, shopping, it might be art, it might be praying, it might be building, it might be conversation, it might be any one of a number of things, right? God has given all of us a passion for something. And we believe that your passion was given to you by God so that you can joyfully participate in his passion. So, in other words, God has one passion, and he spreads that out and gives each of us a little piece of it. And the passion that lives in you is intended by God to be used in his mission in some way. So, you know, if you think, well, shopping, that's crazy. No, because people need stuff. And they need people who can go and find the best deals and shop and buy it. Yeah, and conversation. We encourage and believe that everyone should talk about Jesus, but sometimes people just need to talk. And that's, you know, if you're a person who can do that, and listen to people, you're curious about people, you really like people, that's kind of where my whole thing breaks down. But if you really like people, then, you know, you can be helpful in that way. Or any of the other things, the music, the art. You guys know our son Ben, right? What's his passion? Music. Yeah. And that's connecting. And so Global Lutheran Outreach is all about helping you pursue your passion by participating in his passion. Pursue your passion by participating in his passion. So,
It's like following in his footsteps.
how? Yeah, how do we do that? Global Lutheran Outreach connects, first of all. So we connect missionaries to opportunities. That means places where they can use their gifts. We connect people to missionaries, so you can use your passion to help further that. And we connect people then to mission opportunities. So the A equals B plus A equals B, and B equals C, then A equals C, right? So through your missionary, you're connected to mission opportunities around the world. And Global Lutheran Outreach serves, first of all, people who need Jesus. And we serve missionaries from many nations. And most of our missionaries now, 50%, are not from the United States. So they're from other countries that have Lutheran churches. And we serve national Lutheran churches. They need manpower, they need somebody with expertise or whatever, and local communities of believers as well. So these are the ways that we help people exercise their passion for His passion. Imagine if God had put on your heart the desire to serve Him cross-culturally, and in your Lutheran church, in your country, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, wherever it may be, when you talk about that, people say, we've got so many needs here, and there's no way to send you. And they have no way to fulfill that desire that God has placed in their heart. Because they don't have infrastructure, it's too expensive, it's too out of reach, no one's done it, we can't train you. The endless list of why we can't. We address that issue and make the missionary vocation accessible to people in every language, in every nation. So we do that through missionary training, by church relations and networking. That's a big thing, because you got to negotiate with the Lutheran church in a country before somebody can go there and start working. We do that by providing logistical support, and we do that through providing, of course, missionary care. So what's logistical support? It's having a platform where you can receive donations from people and process those and thank people the right way. You can have an internet platform, a web page, prayer card, all the logistics that go into it. Making sure that your taxes are taken care of. And missionary care is visiting people on the field, providing counseling if they need that, providing group health insurance, in emergency situation. We've had emergencies, and we've been there to help people. So these are all the kinds of things that go into supporting missionaries. And as a result, this is what we end up with. The green are the countries that our missionaries are from, and the red is the countries that they've been sent to. So green is from, red is to. Yeah. So this is the world of global Lutheran outreach right now. God has blessed it, so this is what's next. What's next is our organization needs a full-time director, and our board has said, you've got until January 1st to get yourself in full-time, or we'll start looking for someone else. So with that inspiration, we're making it happen, and we'll be full-time as Glow Director by January 1st. Did you have a question?
Yes, the red dot of the U.S.
Oh, yeah. That was,
Good one.
it was, how do you send missionaries to and from? So the green is countries sent from. We got a lot of American missionaries, but we also have one that was sent to the United States, and we do that. That's what we call domestic missionaries. So. I've got a logistical challenge there. I was just going to ask, make sure we get everyone out. Sam and Brooke Orozco served as missionaries in Paraguay, and then from there, they were called to serve the Michigan district as Hispanic outreach missionaries. I think they've turned out now. I don't think they're anymore in that exact position with Michigan district, but I know they're still doing Hispanic outreach work. So some of the missionaries they should have a little word that says term next to it, because last year they ended their service. But they did it for about 4 or 5 years. Yes. Any other questions about that? Yes. Minimum 2 years. Yeah. And then, of course, that's renewable if the person invited them to serve once and to keep coming back, you know, that's kind of number one. And then if the Lord has equipped them and gifted them so they continue. Other questions? Yes?
Because I'm not familiar enough, are there other organizations within our Lutheran church that also are sending missionaries, or is Global Lutheran Outreach kind of?
Yeah.
Because I know, I'm thinking of Lutheran Bible translators, you know, and those men and women are
There are.
also out there.
Lutheran Bible Translators they send missionaries as well for Bible translation work. Of course, our Missouri Synod, the LCMS, through its World Mission Department, sends missionaries. But we are unique in that we're not focused on sending necessarily LCMS American members. As I've talked to church leaders, they say, what I like about Global Lutheran Outreach is that you're open to all. So, in other words, ours is scalable according to the country that the missionary is from. It's not like once you become a global missionary, you have to raise $130,000 in order to go. That's not it at all. So it's scalable according to the country that the missionary is from. And Lisa's going to be talking about that in just a minute. Any other questions right there?
Will be based in Florida again?
Yeah, I think we're actually going to be hanging around Guardian a little more because I think we're going to move in with mom and dad to help them out. Yeah, kind of in a rough patch right now, so. Yeah,
We can do that.
well, kind of like it or not.
How do you train, how are your pastors trained then?
Yeah, we send pastors and laity. So that's the big thing is that LCMS is also focused on kind of professional church workers where we believe God's put his passion in everybody. So you don't have to be a professional church worker to serve. We do what we call just-in-time training. I got front-loaded training, which means you get all your training, then you're thrown out into the deep end, which has its benefits. But we believe just-in-time training is more effective. We only give a little piece before they're deployed. Then you wait about a month or two until they're drowning, and then just in time you go and you deliver the next piece. And we do that. We do that during about the first year or so. And so that's how their training is delivered. So it's very one-on-one. Yeah. Me or one of my coworkers hits them with the training just in time, hopefully. Yeah. Good. So, Lisa. Yeah.
Okay, so let me show you, we're just going to feature a few of these missionaries that are being, the word isn't really sent, it's like connected and supported through Global Lutheran Outreach. I don't know if you've heard about Joe Stoltno. He went to Cambodia for a short-term mission trip, kind of like our son, well, not like my son, more like my brother. He'll go to overseas and then say, the ticket says next week I have to return, but I'm having fun. So Joe did that. He went to Cambodia, I think with a mission group from his church, and he says, bye Mom, I'm going to stay here and help out this street kid ministry. So that's what he does. He lives in Battambang, or Battambang, Cambodia, and of course he ended up marrying a girl he met there in Cambodia, and they served together. So we have a little mixed culture missionary group there, and now they have 2 lovely children. And they, like I said, what they do is they go and pick up, they have a vehicle now where they pick up kids who live in their street, usually with a single parent, usually with the mom, in some kind of tin roof, tarp place. They bring them to their center. They give them breakfast. I think they probably bathe first thing in the morning too. They give them a bath, breakfast. They have clothes waiting for them. They go to schools where basically all organized schools there have uniforms. They have their uniforms. They take them to school, and then they bring them back home after school. They go pick them up, give them their snack, help them on homework, give them their Bible teaching, take off the clothes, give them some fresh clothes to wear, and then deliver them to their family afterwards. And it's such an awesome opportunity. They do child sponsorship, so that might be something while we're hanging out here in Dearborn. If you want to connect with that, we're going to be facilitators for things like that. Joe and Via is his wife's name. Here's another non-American set of missionaries. This is Victor, and maybe we'll send him our monthly donation. Okay.
Yeah, just the mission circles is something that we're trying to roll out a little more intentionally. And I believe that's the way mission support is going to be moving in the future. And so like an LWML group, it would be an ideal mission circle, or other similar groups, or simply some people who have a home Bible study and, you know, are like, oh, what do we choose this time on? Not sure what we're going to do, you know, and then you're looking for a book. We have 45 mission texts set up with their central theme and how this ties into mission. And then we have a leader's outline. It's a template that serves for all the texts. How do you lead a mission Bible study in 30 minutes? And so it walks you through, you know, the opening, the prayer. You read the text, you interpret the text by asking these questions, and then you answer the big question is what is going on in here that's God moving in mission. And then the final 10 minutes are receiving the news for your missionary, praying and offering. So it's a 1 hour, excuse me, the final 30 minutes, not 3 minutes. And so it's a 1 hour time of study that's suitable for small groups. So if anyone's interested in that, I can send it along and give you the mission circles texts and the template and all of that stuff and help you get connected to a mission.
And that's the exciting part of this next stage of Jim and Liisa Tino as missionaries. Is Jim was working on that the last few months, developing, getting all these texts in order, creating something that's user-friendly. And Victor was testing it out in Guatemala and saying, this works, we need to tweak that. I'm just so excited that now he's going to be doing all that kind of stuff, creating these tools and connections. Because while we're serving as missionaries in Santiago, which we love, there's not a whole lot of extra time to do stuff like that. Okay, here's one other family. This is the Otula family. I love saying their name because it sounds like a Finnish last name, Otula. I'm from a family of Finns. I'm from New Hampshire, where there's Lahtis and Sarinens and Matson, which was my last name. So Otula's not Finnish, just FYI. They're from Kenya, and I had the blessing of meeting them in 2018, right? Yeah. Amos, the dad there, born and raised in Kenya, was Buddhist for a long time, became a Christian. He had his degree, his college degree in like informational sciences and healthcare, worked a little bit with community health programs, but then went to seminary. And his wife, Evelyn, is a high school language teacher, but her language isn't English, it's Kiswahili. So language and history, high school teacher. Yeah, she's quite a bit older. They have a way of preserving their youthfulness. And it's really interesting. We got to go to Kenya, and I didn't get to go to their home, but you've gone there before, right? It's your typical little African village, right? Where it's basically her family and her cousins that live all around this circle with very simple huts. And their passion is to go to Uganda and work with the South Sudanese refugees. Sometimes I'm a little concerned because when non-North Americans want to be missionaries, sometimes it's because they've seen a missionary live this posh life. Oh yeah, they jet back and forth, and they've got all these nice things that people send them. Well, Amos and Evelyn aren't thinking about that. They want to work with refugees in refugee camps. Kenya is a little bit of a hard sell in the National Lutheran Church of Kenya on how they can physically and down out of your pocket support missionaries. So it's been taking them a while to raise their funds. They have now 4 daughters. They don't have 3 anymore, but 4 daughters, beautiful little girls. And Amos, I think that God has something amazing he's going to do soon through their ministry, because he has been plagued with one illness after another, right? So Glow has been supporting him for different tests and different treatments. Does he have the green card now? Like he can go on. Not the green card, green light. I often mix up my metaphors, sorry. Is he getting ready to go?
We're still waiting for
Yeah, but prayer item. Really pray for Amos and Evelyn and their family of 4 daughters. Can I do one more? And last one more picture. You might know these guys.
Oh.
There's our newest daughter, Scarlett. So those of you who don't know, haven't heard Ben talk yet, as soon as Scarlett gets her visa, they'll be visiting Guardian. Ben is in a really exciting stage of his ministry. If you get his newsletter, he's got the musicians trained, he's got his exit plan, he's getting the guy who's going to coordinate them. Of course, he's starting to find out their lack of commitment from time to time. But with Scarlett by his side, I think it takes on a new dynamic. And they really enjoy doing team ministry together. So you can have in your praise items, thank you for Scarlett, and who knows where the Lord's going to lead them with their mission service.
We'll take questions in just a minute, but I just wanted to leave this final word. Lisa and I just came from a week-long training camp in St. Louis with an organization called Let's Build Hope. And I thought, you know, I've always thought, what an appropriate name. They work with nonprofits. And the missionaries, of course, you know, they share hope wherever they go. But we don't often think of it from the other side. What about that person or that family who knows that God has called them into mission, but they just can't figure out how to get there? There's no organization, they've got no traction, nothing. And they've been waiting and praying, and they've been in Nigeria or they've been in Kenya for a year, 2 years, and still God hasn't shown them the finances. You know, if you get somebody who says, I don't even know you, I'm going to support you at $25 a month, that does a world of good for that person for $50 a month. Amos and Evelyn budget for a year in Uganda, refugee camps, is $12,000.
Ours actually will help too.
Yeah, they do. 12,000, if you can imagine, you know, a typical missionary is way above that. So that's part of what we're doing as Global Lutheran Outreach as well, is inspiring hope that this can be done. So just leave this up on the screen. These are the ways you can be a mission partner. Pray. The mission work is primarily a ministry of prayer. We have an e-newsletter sign-up thing up on the table where we're going to keep you informed. You can like or follow Global Lutheran Outreach or friend Liisa, because she posts a lot.
Look at the Global Lutheran Outreach Facebook.
Yeah, I got it there, Global Lutheran Outreach Facebook, or friend Liisa, and then go to our website. We got a free Glow app. It's in your app store. So if you type in Global Lutheran Outreach, you'll get an app. Nobody's really using it yet, but it's there, and so eventually it will be active.
What's in
And we've got all of our missionaries, and then they can post prayer requests and updates from their ministry. And if you want them to donate to the missionary or whatever, or you communicate with them, or donate. So you've got a link to email them or to go to their page. Yeah. Okay, so questions before we wrap it up. Got one in the back there.
Are there ways to reach out, to people in these countries, without going there, whether through email, whether through writing letters, what have you, whether it be to, just be supportive of believers over there or to reach unbelievers with the gospel? Is there a way through written communication to do that?
Yeah, definitely the gospel is more easily spread when people from their own culture who aren't tripped up by the cultural landmines are able to communicate it that way. And what I hear you say, though, is there a way to do cross-cultural mission work without going to that particular place, short of actually going there and serving, right? Yeah. There's short-term teams, volunteer teams, that I think is good. Because until you've made a connection with somebody in real life, there's really not like a letter type of thing, Once you've gotten to know people and you have a relationship, then all of that becomes very meaningful. But before the relationship, I think it's a little hard.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Got one here. Right here.
Marky Cemetery, Venezuela. Can you give us an update on what's happened? We had three. Some people here in this room may not realize it, but we had 3 mission trips to Barquisimeto to help you found and build that facility.
Right. Yeah, that church was, the government changed the laws and removed tax exempt status for every tax exempt organization in the country and then assessed them back taxes. And so if they can't pay, then the property is confiscated. So we've got a lawyer team working on this, and we've been supporting them with funds. I just got the most recent one was beginning of October. They said, we're almost to the finish line, $6,500, and they send me an itemized bill of why everything costs that much, because it's a dollarized economy. And we had in the Venezuela account, we had about 4,000. I sent it and said, just send it, we'll figure it out later. So anyways, that's remaining to be figured out. You may remember Omar Martinez, who was a 12-year-old when the Guardian group came. He's now been a pastor for many years, and he just applied to be a missionary with Global Lutheran Outreach. So he may end up serving someplace else. So kind of a quick update. That's where they're at. Yeah, congregations are worshiping there, and
More congregations.
yeah, there's 3 churches now in Barquisimeto. Yeah, there used to be 1. So yeah, the Lord blesses. It hasn't been without its struggles. I mean, but I'm doing the 30-second summary. Yeah. Okay.
This is just more of a comment. I think people are probably aware, last year for our Guardian chapel offering emphasis, we spent the whole year collecting chapel offerings for the Garuna Foundation. When you brought up the Cambodian missionaries, it reminded me of this. And I don't know, Nate, how much money was raised to build that school, to build a Christian school in a communist country?
You put me on the spot.
I know.
He doesn't.
I couldn't, I'd have to look it up, I'm sorry.
5-figure.
Yeah.
5-figure.
Yes. And that's wonderful. Yeah. We know Jeff Ehlers, yeah, and the Garuna Foundation. Yep.
I was going to say one last thing. When you're commenting about sending emails or some type of communication with people, how effective is that? I would say once you get to know a missionary, or somebody who's serving there, do all of that. Send us messages back. I mean, I know when I get a note or an email from somebody here at Guardian, whether it's from the Ladies Guild, who's been very supportive of us, wherever we may go, Venezuela or Chile, it really means a lot. And just today, I don't know how many different Guardianites have come up to me and expressed condolences. My father passed 2 weeks ago. And I don't know how the word got out everywhere. I mean, my husband's not as chatty as I am, so he didn't tell everybody. But when you hear that someone's been praying for you and they're holding you up, I mean, a lot of you are witnesses to that. It's really what the Brotherhood's all about, so thank you. Thank you for your support personally and for our organization.
Okay. Final questions? We got 1 minute or 2. All right. I'd like to encourage you to visit the LWML table and our admission table that are both up the stairs in the parlor, or what is that, the lobby?
Welcome Center.
Welcome Center, yeah. And so please go up, and you'll notice we changed it up this time. Some people have been a little confused. We've got a lot of the same, usually we have like a display item so you can see kind of some artifacts from Chile, but we don't have that this time. We have a lot of the same kinds of things because what we found at last furlough is that people were picking up our artifacts that were just there and saying, how much for this? Well, we weren't planning to sell it. So this time we just brought stuff that if somebody likes it, wants to buy one, they can. So it's a little different than, so you're not going to see a big variety of artifacts, you just got a lot of a few things. So if you're one of those who were walking off with our artifacts last year, this year, that's okay to do that. If you could, yeah. So let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for your passion for all the world, that everyone would come to know you. And we give you thanks that you've taken a piece of that, a piece of you, and put it in each of us. Connect our passion to your passion, so that by doing the things we love to do, more and more people would come to know Jesus. Bless now for those of us who will be in worship in late service, bless our time of worship. And for those of us returning home, bless our return home. And we commit ourselves into your care in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.